Join Sam Tripoli and I for Tinfoil Hat Comedy, March 6th in Louisville, March 7th, Fort Wayne, April 10th, Tacoma. Go to samtripoli.com for tickets. See you there. This episode is brought to you by Cellular Performance Institute. Is your body beat up and broken down? Look into stem cells today. It could change your life. Go to cellularperformanceinstitute.com.
I can't believe I won.
And you still got people out there with double mask and face shields and shit. Look into it.
You can tell it's real because it looks so fake.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Look Into It. Tonight, we're going to get into Tartaria, but with a Jesus slant to it, with author and YouTuber, independent researcher, Paul STOBBS. What's up, Paul?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm doing well.
Flat Earth Bear on Instagram. And Bear, that E in Bear is a 3. At Flat Earth Bear, he kept hitting me up. He goes, you got to listen to this guy. You got to watch this video. Trust me. And I'm getting hit with all these videos all the time. Everyone's asking me to do all this shit. I can barely manage my Instagram. And I don't even have Facebook. I don't have Twitter. I do have Twitter, but I'm never on it. I'm never on Facebook. I don't have time. So I'm like, okay, just focus on Instagram. And he keeps hitting me. He goes, watch this video. You're going to love it. It's about Tartaria and Jesus. I'm like, okay. And I never really got to it. And he kept hitting me. I'm like, okay, I got to sit down and watch this podcast. And it was you, and it was explaining, man, this is wild. Because I'm considered like a white belt in the whole Tartaria thing. I'm fascinated by it. Like, it's insane that there's all these structures all over the world in every major city. They're in LA. You see them, these cathedrals and these crazy buildings that they're not building anymore. And they say, oh, they used to build that in the 1800s. And then your research is based on how possibly Jesus was responsible for, or a part of the Tartarian empire that went on 1,000 years. Satan was in a lake of fire. And then after the 1,000 years, they released Satan, and here we are. Like in the 1700s, Satan got released, and now we're here in the little season, the little satanic season. Correct? Yes. Am I close?
You've pretty much nailed it on the head there, Eddie. Yeah, give yourself a pat on the back. That was pretty good.
Damn. Pretty good. I'm fascinated by it because we don't know how these buildings have popped up everywhere, and they're just beautiful, insane. The architecture is unbelievable, and no one's doing shit like this anymore. And where did this come from? And they were already in San Francisco and in Seattle, and it was supposed to be the Wild West. Like, what? There was castles in Utah. Like, what's going on? For the audience, give me your background, how you got into this subject, and you also have a book called "The Nephilim Look Like Clowns." Yeah. That's pretty fascinating, right? Like you're basically saying clowns come from what the Nephilim look like, right?
Basically.
Go through all that. How'd you get into all this?
So I'm what you call a scattershot conspiracy theorist. I've been on YouTube for a decade now, started in 2014. And I've just been making conspiracy videos for about that time, basically. I did have to take a break in 2018 for 5 years, because my workplace found the channel and threatened to fire me if I didn't stop making videos. And I, in a moment of weakness I'm not proud of, I capitulated because I had too much debt to deal with, and I kind of did just back down.
What kind of conspiracies were you posting about in the early days?
Well, I was there with everybody through every topic you can imagine. Like I said, I cover it all, including flat Earth, Mandela effect, the political divide that was going on in 2016. There's been that left-right politics thing going on, and I was kind of trying to always look at it from an outside perspective and see the Hegelian dialectics going on, the basic stuff, you know, the Illuminati, the controlling hand, all that stuff, all the basic conspiracy stuff. And my channel was always there to try and understand the whole image. So I don't focus on one topic. I like to talk about all of them, you know, and in 2016, I started this series called The Nephilim Look Like Clowns. And I've done numerous podcast visits. I've even talked to Sam Tripoli about that one. That was a fun podcast, and it was a good time, you know. And I've kind of done the circuit on that. I've written the first book in the volume. You can see the poster behind me here. This is what it looks like. You can get it on Amazon. And there's also like a 44 episode series dedicated to that topic. And I was kind of in the midst of focusing on that when I had to leave YouTube. But I did make a few risky videos back in the day talking about the multicolored collective, I like to call them, you know, the ultra left wing liberal rainbow flag waving cult that was out there at that time, in that time period, trying to control us and dictate what we can and cannot say. And I think my workplace didn't appreciate that as a diverse multicultural company who, you know, had just hired me as a manager. So I think they had an issue with that, to be honest. Maybe I should have been a bit more clever about how I said things, but that's basically where I was in that time period. But I came back about 2 years ago to YouTube. Hit it hard with the Nephilim Look Like Clown stuff, picked up where I left off.
Again, did you leave your job? Did you?
Oh, yeah, I quit.
Oh, okay. So that's why you came back. You quit.
I quit after just being, I just had enough. I'm not a manager of a supermarket. I'm a conspiracy theorist, you know, so I committed to that and I came back, and this is my job now. And like I said, I make videos. I'm writing the second book in this volume now, and I've been known as the Nephilim clown guy for a while. You know, that's kind of what my shtick became. But as a researcher of all things conspiracy as well, I kept bumping into this topic coming off the Tartaria research. So I was studying Tartaria, everything to do with it, all the people saying what they were saying, and the Antiquitech, all the old world stuff, you know, discussing that not that long ago, maybe about 200, just over 200 years ago, something cataclysmic happened, and there was some kind of advanced civilization just prior to that, which is not in the history books. That's basically Tartaria summarized very quickly there. And you see these gorgeous buildings all over the earth in places where they have no business being, like in Honduras, for example, you know, just massive Romanesque style pillared massive buildings all over the place, and cathedrals left, right, and center. And it's kind of, where did these come from? Because the history tells us these people would not have had the technological know-how or the tools necessary to create such things in such places, or even shift the stones, never mind even design the thing to such perfect geometrical form. So this whole culture developed called Tartaria, didn't it? This whole body of researchers. And I enjoyed it because the alternative history was fascinating. But as something just never sat quite right with me about it. And it seemed a little bit contrived, was a bit hopeful, talking about like this civilization that we have called Tartaria from Russia in Siberia, which we have on these maps, dominated the whole earth somehow, and it just didn't match up very well with much I could really square in my own mind. I did as a Christian as well, you know, and again, I became a Christian because of the conspiracy research. So it's not like I was born or raised a Christian or anything, or programmed to be a Christian. I came to the conclusions on my own. But this Tartaria stuff was throwing a bit of a wrench into the whole works. It's like, how do I square this as a Christian? What does this fit into the biblical narrative exactly? I don't understand, you know, because there's clearly evidence something happened. There was an advanced civilization, and these buildings are clearly sound, manifest, physical somehow. If you look at like a cathedral, they're very psychedelic creations when you really get down to it, you know. And I was blown away by it, but I didn't know what to do with it. And I randomly saw this video by a channel. Well, first of all, Conspiracy Auras is quite big. He kind of made a video discussing the works of other very minor voices in the community. And he said, there's this thing in the Bible that talks about Christ ruling for 1,000 years with his saints. Could Tartaria have been that, maybe? And it was just humoring that idea, basically. And then he moved on. And then another channel popped up called Exploring Tartaria. And this lady basically just laid out the whole idea and just laid out that it seems like if you look at all these churches and the iconography everywhere, you have these resurrected saints all over these Catholic churches. And you read Revelation 20 and it says the resurrected dead will get to reign with Christ for 1,000 years as kings. And she kind of equated that it seems like maybe this has happened, and this is the remnants of it. These resurrected saints all over the cathedrals, and it got the cogs turning in my head. I was like, wait a minute, no, that can't be, like, because we're waiting for Jesus to return, right? You know, everyone, all Christians know Christ hasn't returned yet and established his kingdom, surely. So this doesn't work. But we have all this Tartarian stuff and this evidence for an advanced civilization that randomly disappeared, and you can't help but put two and two together. And so I started to just sit on it for a while and focus on the Nephilim stuff, and I just didn't want to discuss it. And then randomly one day in October last year, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I'd been researching this topic for so long and just being quiet about it. And I thought, if I talk about this, my entire channel is going to become about this one topic, because I just know how this works. You know, it'll shift gears very quickly. I'll split focus. I'm focused on the Nephilim clowns, but I have to talk about this. So I made one video, and it was basically, okay, so if Christ has reigned for 1,000 years already, who are we in this time? What's going on? Who are we living in this time after the millennial reign, you know? And I made that video, and it went viral. I think it's on something like 300,000 views now, maybe more. I don't know. I've lost track. I'm not really paid attention to it. And it's just snowballed from there. And now I am inadvertently like a figurehead in some kind of growing movement online. There's quite a few of us, some big channels out there, probably smarter than I am, to be honest, to present information in such an amazing way, which is just backing up this concept that it seems like we really are living after tribulation. There has been 1,000-year reign of Christ physically on earth with resurrected saints, and we are in what's called the little season of Satan, which in Revelation 20, chapter 7, it clearly states when the 1,000 years has ended. So it ends. Satan's let loose from his imprisonment and goes forth and deceives all the nations to gather an army whose number is of the sands of the sea, Gog and Magog, to make war with the camp of saints and the beloved city. We could be the people living in that time, is basically what we've come to conclude. And
it says that in the Bible, what you just said. That's a Bible verse.
It does. So maybe we should get Revelation 20 up and just read it. If your guy there, Sean, wants to get up or something.
Hibbler, can you pull up what's it, Revelation what?
Revelation 20. It's just the whole verse. It's 15 lines in the whole thing. And we'll just scroll down and read it.
What, man? It says that in the Bible that.
Yeah.
Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's basically the Christian answer to the Tartarian stuff, because they're not a very Christian bunch. They don't care about, they think Christianity is like a symbol for the sun or something, or they've got like a more of a Gnostic spin on it, or they just reject Christ outright and they go down more of a New Age spiritual type of route. But this is kind of the answer.
Okay, can you blow that up a little bit, Hib? Can you make it bigger? Is that possible? The 1,000 years.
Not letting me. Hold on.
If you go up to the second option, I think it's the KJV version. That one's all right. It's line by line, this one. If you click that version and maybe just do a quick zoom in, this one kind of breaks it down line by line quite well. And yeah, so I'll read it to you. So
yeah, read it.
It says here, I saw an angel come down from heaven having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. So this is the end. For context, tribulation's just happened. Destruction.
So this is the end of the 1,000-year reign of Christ.
This is the beginning of the 1,000-year reign of Christ. So
this is the beginning. Okay.
What's just happened here is the whole earth's just been destroyed by absolute chaos. Okay, all the 7 vile judgments have been poured out on the earth. Christ has returned, and he's just destroyed his enemies, all those who were against him. He's destroyed the old empire, and he's basically establishing his kingdom on earth. And this is the beginning of it. So at the end of tribulation, which, by the way, this is what everyone's waiting for. Everyone believes tribulation is about to come upon us in the Christian world. This is what happens afterwards. Okay, so no one's really looked at this part of the Bible with much scrutiny because they don't think it applies to us today. They think this is a far off future event 2,000 years from now or something. You know what I mean? They don't really think about it. So this is what happens after tribulation. Okay, so it says, I saw an angel come down from heaven having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. and cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal upon him that he should not deceive the nations. So he just deceived the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. Then after that, he must be loosed a little season. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them. The judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus and for the words of God, which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, or had received his mark on their foreheads or in his hands. And they lived and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. So this is explaining the devil's locked up. And then those who were killed during the Antichrist beast reign for not taking the mark of the beast, they're resurrected.
Stem cells, they could do some wild shit down there.
You know, I got the stem cells in my shoulder. My shoulder was jacked. I went down there, it worked, man.
Eric Anders' neck was f***ed up, and then he went down and got stem cell treatment. Now it doesn't bother him at all anymore.
I definitely recommend CPI. It's changed my life. The best stem cell clinic in the world.
I just come and I do stem cells to make sure that I'm resetting my body and staying healthy.
It regenerates tissue, reduces inflammation. The results are amazing.
CPI stem cells is where you want to go. There's no other place in town. They do the best work in the world. I feel incredible.
If there's anything causing you to not live the quality of life that you like, then this investment is more than worth it.
When it comes to the science of stem cells, no one comes close to CPI. There's not even a close second.
For a free doctor call to see if stem cells is the right option for you, visit us at cpistemcells.com.
And they get to rule with Christ for 1,000 years in his new kingdom, which he's just established. 1,000 years without Satan. 1,000 years with these perfected, resurrected light bodies, just ruling with Christ as kings on thrones over all the nations. So that's kind of their reward for staying true to Christ during the millennials, during the tribulation events. So Karen here, the rest of the dead live not again till the 1,000 years were finished. Then it awkwardly kind of places, this is the first resurrection, but it's referring to the whole event, basically. So, you know, you have tribulation, saints resurrected, they get to rule with Christ for 1,000 years. And then when the 1,000 years has ended, the rest of the dead, all throughout history, are resurrected. Now, I've theorized maybe that's who we are. We have lived once before on earth, and we have been in Sheol waiting for this time where we get to be put back into the earth after the millennial reign, perhaps for a chance to choose Christ, because we didn't have a chance previously because Christ wasn't around yet. That's just one theory, but that was me making that video, just saying that kind of was what sparked this whole thing on my channel. But let's just keep reading here. So first resurrection happens, people reign with Christ for 1,000 years. Blessed and holy is he that has part in the first resurrection, because the second death has no power. They don't have to deal with judgment. They're safe. They're done. It's all cool, you know. But they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and will reign with him 1,000 years. And then when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan will be loosed out of his prison and will go out and deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the numbers of whom is of the sands of the sea. So this is no small army. This is the whole earth. This is billions.
I wonder
billions
why.
Of people.
I wonder why it had to be over like after 1,000 years. Like why let Satan out at all? Like,
well, we can get into that. I've theorized it's basically for choice. So if you're living with Christ, it's pretty hard to reject him or to make a choice. You haven't really got a choice when he's there right in front of you. You know what I mean? And I think there were a lot of people. He had enemies during his reign. We'll get into this, but the millennial reign wasn't just a time of wonderful peace. He ruled with an iron rod. Okay. It's discussed in the book of Zechariah that people had to make pilgrimages to the New Jerusalem, or they would get droughts. You know, there were people who lived during this time of relative peace who still rejected Christ. And I think it's Satan's let out for the season to give the rest of the dead a choice. Do you want to choose Christ or do you want to choose the devil? They'll never take that free will from people. But it's kind of when you haven't got the choice, are the people really truly choosing you? Do you get what I mean? I think that's really what it's about. I think it's to give free will, because Satan fundamentally, it's all throughout the book of the Bible. The book of Job is a good example of this. He can't really do anything without God's permission. He is basically, he has a job to fulfill for God, and it's to test people. That's all he's ever really been for, to test the faith of people. I think it's no different in this time. I think his job is to test the faith of people, to see when push comes to shove, who will people choose? There's a dividing going on here. Christianity is not a fair religion. Fundamentally, it's not. Salvation is for those who choose to accept it. It's kind of, and that some people don't like that. People might think that's fair, but it's a free gift. Take it or leave it. And I think he's let loose for that short time to have his final hurrah, but at the same time to give people the choice back. Because we live in a time, think about it, you can know Christ. It's quite easy to know Jesus this day and age. His word has continued throughout all the destruction. You can know who Christ was and what he did and what the gospel is very easily, but you can also choose the world. You can choose to reject him, and you can kind of know who Satan is too if you want to. So I think it's a matter of choice. That's what I'm working with so far. But I'm open to any theory on the matter, because all I can say is the book says that's what happens, and if that's what it says happens, I'm going to believe it.
When you said that Satan can't do anything without God's permission, and that his job is like he's working for God to test people. Like, man, I had this feeling run through me, dude.
Yeah. It's hard hitting stuff. I mean, honestly, this theory is going to contextualize a lot of things to you. Now, I'm guessing you've been in the conspiracy game for a while. You're a flat earther yourself, We'll get into that, because this works with it perfectly, because we need to get into the beloved city in the camp of saints. Like, where is that? Well, it's likely if we live in a flat plane and the north is the center of all things, that's where New Jerusalem is. That's where Jesus currently is right now. He never left. His beloved city, his camp of saints, those who ruled and reigned with him for 1,000 years, though we can't see them, they're likely on Earth somewhere, and it's more likely in the center of the Earth. And all the older maps do show there's something right there, right in the middle, right in the center.
There's definitely something in the middle. I mean, everything rotates around the middle. The sun, the moon, and the stars, they're not like floating randomly. They're connected to some force, and it's pretty obvious that it's some kind of electromagnetic force, and it's all in the center of this giant lake that we're in, and everything goes around the center. Our compasses point to the center. Polaris is above the center. It's the only star that doesn't move, and everything's going around Polaris. I mean, it's pretty obvious that the sun, the moon, and the stars are all controlled by the same force. That's pretty fucking obvious. That's
absolutely.
I mean, that's just like in your face. The sun is not going that way one day and then that way. It's a clock. Above us is a clock, and we're in the clock. Our clocks are synchronized to that, to the lights in the sky. So,
well, think of the Northern Lights. Okay, so we're told that's energy coming from solar flares, sparking up the ions in the atmosphere to make this colorful display. Or is it literally the throne of God, who sits in the center of the earth, ruling, emanating his light out and his energy and his glory? Because the colors that are described in the Bible for the throne of God are identical to the colors that are described that you see when you see the Northern Lights. If Christ is ruling and reigning from the center of the earth, and always has been, and basically the cameras just aren't pointed on him, the maps just don't show him today, the shipping routes just don't go past it, the planes don't fly over it, so no one knows it's there. Then as long as no one knows Jesus is there, Satan can deceive the whole world. And it says here he deceives all the nations. Okay, and he manages to get an army to then go and make war with the camp of saints. So it's a place on earth somewhere physically. It's somewhere, and all I can deduce is it's in the north, and all the compasses point to Jesus. That's where it's pointing to, the true north. Anyway, we'll carry on here. It says, they went up the breadth of the earth and encompassed the camp of saints about that beloved city. And then fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. So all those who chose to make war with Jesus basically get destroyed very quickly by fire. And the devil that deceived them, so that you get deceived, was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. So, like I said, the beast and the false prophet are from the tribulation events that happened 1,000 years prior. Now Satan's finally been thrown in there with them, for his rebellion from the start of all of this. It wasn't much of a rebellion in the end. It was he's a loser when it comes to all of this, and this is explaining how it all comes to an end for him. Then it says here, I saw a great white throne and sat on it, from whose face the earth and heaven fled away, and there was no place for them. So the earth and the heaven are destroyed. Everything's taken away. And then the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and the death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them. So everyone who's died, their souls all throughout history have been basically in like a holding cell by this point. It's called Sheol. And they all kind of just are released all at once. Because this is game over, by the way. Once fire comes down from heaven, there is no earth anymore. It's over. Christ comes to destroy the earth. Let's put it this way. Okay. This is Thanos. This is what all your Hollywood movies are depicting Jesus as, the evil invading alien and wants to destroy everything, And it's kind of, but at the end of the day, a new heaven and earth is established after this, which is far better than what we have currently. He comes to renew the earth. He comes to resurrect the earth, because the earth currently is infested with demons, spirits left over from the flood of Noah, okay, the giants, the Nephilim. So this whole thing needs to be reset. And the best way to get rid of the parasites is just destroy the host and then make a new one. All things are possible with God. So this is what Revelation's building up to, the new heaven and earth. This is what all Christians should be looking forward to. This is what all Christians are promised to be saved and get to enter into. If you're saved by the blood of Jesus, when it comes to this judgment at the end of time, after the little season, you get to enter the new heaven and earth. So I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God. The books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works. So if you're in the book of life, you're saved because you accepted Christ as your savior. You're covered in that moment. If you didn't, you're going to be judged by your works. And most people fail miserably when it comes to their works alone, which is why we need a savior. That was the point. Maybe some will get through on their righteousness. God knows your heart. He knows who you are and what you did and what you truly believed. And some people may make it through, but I imagine it's very narrow, the number who get it through without Christ on their side, if zero, because people always fail when it comes to them trying to succeed on their own righteousness, because we're sinful by nature, So this book is kind of summarizing that judgment at the end. And then it says, judged according to the works, and death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. So no more death. No more hell, no more anywhere to hold the demons or a storage cell anymore. This is the second death. Remember, this is where the saints don't have to suffer that second death. They're safe from the judgment. Those who took part in the first resurrection and got to reign with Christ on earth for 1,000 years. They don't have to deal with this part. This is everybody else. The rest of the dead have to deal with judgment. We are the rest of the dead. I assume this is our last chance to accept Christ before that final judgment. And it seems that's what the little season was for, to give us that chance. And I've theorized with some people, perhaps the whole point of the millennial reign was so Christ could build up the earth and its infrastructure for 1,000 years into something impossible for Satan to destroy. Something so complex, so infrastructurally built out with canals and cathedrals and cities and waterworks and pipes and undergrounds, everything just built out to the max. So when the devil's released after his 1,000-year imprisonment, he is going to try his best to erase as much as he possibly can. But he just can't. It's impossible because Christ built up too much in those 1,000 years with his saints. He was basically laying out a world for us to come back into, to have that chance to know him. So it seems like there was a purpose there, And this is what people call Tartaria. And it likely wasn't. Now, we'll get into the nuances of why, because Tartaria is complicated. It's not just one style of architecture. And we can get into the history leading up to all of this. But this is what the book of Revelation is explaining, where we are, where we could be. And,
now, explain how you went over a bunch of things that the apostles said that basically said that the second coming of Christ was coming in their lifetime, and it's not like 2,000 years later. But I saw the podcast. I saw you were going through a bunch of things that the apostles said. Where can we find that?
Sure. So we are a huge community now. Okay. And there's somebody called Robert. He's a member of, he's actually from Britain. He wrote this book recently. It's only 50 pages. You can get it for like $5 in Amazon. And he's basically just laid out everything in 50 pages, all the theories, all the nuances. And he's got all the quotes you can imagine, all right there for what the apostles said and the words of Jesus himself. And it's very clear. It's very clear. The apostles in their time thought Christ was coming back in their lifetime. They were adamant. Now is the time. Repent. Christ is about to return to establish his millennial reign kingdom.
Is there a
Get
list of
ready.
what they said that we could post up so that people can see?
Sure. So Matthew 10:23. So these are the words of Jesus. So let's start with Jesus, the master first. Okay. He's the most important. You're a Christian. You want to say you're a follower of Christ. Then let's listen to what he actually said. So Matthew 10:23. When they persecute you in this city, flee ye into another. For verily I say unto you, ye shall not have gone over all the cities of Israel till the Son of Man be come. So it won't take you getting through all the cities of Israel before I return. Keep fleeing, because I'm coming back soon, you know. Matthew 16:28. Verily I say unto you, there'll be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Pretty cut and dry. Some of you standing in front of me right now won't be dead before I return with my kingdom. Some naysayers have tried to say, well, you know, a bit further along, he's talking about the transfiguration, where a couple of apostles witness him transform, you know, and talk to some ghostly figures and stuff like this. And that was kind of like witness him in his godly way, you know. That's not him coming in his kingdom. Okay. And you can't apply the same logic to what he said to Caiaphas, a Pharisee priest. He said the same thing to him. Caiaphas, you will see me come back in my kingdom. You will live to see it, you know. So it's kind of, he was talking about literally coming back with his kingdom in the clouds here, not seeing me transform a little bit on a hill for like 20 minutes, which is what people try and argue against this. So Matthew 24:34, verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till these things be fulfilled. Now, this is a huge matter of contention, this verse. People have tried to argue, and this is the argument we always get, this generation doesn't mean the people in front of him, just the generation that witnesses the events that he's describing. He's talking about a future generation yet to come who will witness these things. Okay, you could make that interpretive argument that generation doesn't mean his generation, but a future one. And you could also make the argument that the word generation is referring to a group of people. So he's talking about Israel will witness him. Maybe. But that doesn't explain the other 100 verses I'm about to tell you where he's talking about it being imminent in their lifetime. But they cling to that one verse to try and cling to their idea that Christ is still to come to us 2,000 years later. But they're wrong. Because in context to all the other things I'm about to say, it's very clear what he meant by this generation. He meant his generation.
Let's keep it going. I want to see it.
So
basically, everything that we're going through now is evidence that the apostles and Jesus were saying he's coming back in their lifetime, not in 2,000 years.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So Matthew 26:64, Jesus saith unto him, thou hast said, nevertheless I say unto you, hereafter shall ye see the Son of Man sitting in the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. So that's him talking to Caiaphas. Okay. So Mark 9:1, and he saith unto them, verily I say unto you, that there shall be some of them standing here which shall not taste of death till they have seen the kingdom of God come with power.
What version are you reading, boss?
This is all KJV.
Okay, let me pull it up so we can be with you here.
Yeah, it's all KJV.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, there we go. So Mark 13:30, you find all the gospels, all the synoptic gospels, they repeat this because they all heard him say this very clearly. So they all say the same thing. And so in Mark 13:30, verily I say unto you that this generation shall not pass till they see these things be done. Luke 9:27, but I tell you of a truth, there shall be some standing here which will not taste of death till they see the kingdom of God. Luke 21:32, verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. So again, this generation in context to all these other verses is very clear. His generation, those standing in front of him in his day, will witness this. All these things happen. Tribulation, the mark of the beast, the Antichrist, the son of perdition, the destruction of the temple, and the establishment of the millennial reign. He's telling them, you will all see these things. Okay? You standing in front of me. Some of you will make it to that time. Some of you may die beforehand. But there are some standing here today. We have somehow twisted our theology to believe he's talking to us 2,000 years later. And the literal reading of the book does not call for that. And we'll get into the deception later, to explain how this has happened. But trickery has been afoot. And we are conspiracy theorists first and foremost, all right? And there's a conspiracy at play here, that's for sure. So John 21, 22 to 23. Jesus saith unto him, If I will that he tarry till I come, what is it to thee? Follow thou me. Then went his sayings abroad among the brethren that that disciple should not die. Yet Jesus said not unto him, he shall not die, but that if I tarry till I come, what is it to thee? So to explain this, it's a bit complicated language. What he's saying is, he's told John, you're not going to die before I come. You're going to live to see me come, but the rest of you are going to die. It's basically what he was saying. All the apostles are going to be martyred, but John, you'll make it. And then people are like, well, what are you saying? What's going to happen to the rest of us? And Jesus is like, what does it matter that John lives and you die? In the end, you're all going to be resurrected anyway. That's basically what he's saying. What's it to you? What happens to John? You focus on your mission. That's what Jesus is saying here.
So all the apostles were basically crucified in like different ways for not denouncing Jesus, right? And John, they didn't kill John though.
Well,
right? Like why?
Supposedly he's still alive. According to this, people have tried to say John must still be alive now, 2,000 years later, because Jesus said he would be. So he must be 2,000 years old on Earth somewhere, right? That's what people are saying. Or it's likely, he's possible. We equate the book of Revelation to John, but there's also another John who may have written it. It's a bit up in the air, but we can assume it's John the apostle in prison at Patmos who wrote the book of Revelation, and gives the final warnings in that final revelation which we just read. Christ is coming soon, and we'll get into those quotes in a second. So Romans 13, 11 through 12. So this is Paul talking here. This is after the fact. So he is giving a message as he's bringing his churches through Asia Minor, spreading the gospel. He's saying, and that knowing the time, that the now is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. The night is far spent, the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness and let us put on the armor of light. So he is saying, now, guys, the time is at hand. Now, the apostles very much believed time was short in their time. 1 Corinthians 7:29. But this I say, brethren, the time is short. It remaineth that both they that have wives be as though they had none. So he's basically saying, don't bother marrying. Don't have kids. Tribulation's about to come. It'll be horrible for you to live through such a time, to have loved ones with you. You may see them die in a horrible way. Don't bother having children, is what Paul was saying. Don't marry, because sudden destruction is about to come. They were adamant. And 1 Corinthians 10:11. Now all these things happened unto them for ensamples, and they are written for our damnation, upon whom the ends of the world are come. So he's saying we are the people who the end of the world is about to come upon. The end of an age, shall we say. Philippians 4:5. Let your moderation be known unto all men. The Lord is at hand. So we got 1 Thessalonians 4:15 through 17. So this one's it's a long one. For this we say unto you, that the word of the Lord, that we which are alive and remain unto the coming of the Lord shall not prevent them which are asleep. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with a voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. So shall we ever be with the Lord. So he's basically saying, you guys here right now, we're going to be a part of the first resurrection if you die. But anyone who's left, don't worry, we get to go with them. It's all cool. So Paul's telling people in these churches he's established, it's coming, guys, get ready any minute now. You're going to get persecuted. I know it's hard, but tarry till the end. You'll get to be resurrected as a saint. Now, people still today try to say stuff like, that's for us. We're the ones that are going to get raptured.
I'm Eddie Bravo.
founder of 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu with over 150 schools and over 30,000 soldiers worldwide. Music has always been my deepest passion. Without that musical journey that I took, I probably wouldn't be here right now. I can't tell my music story without having my musical partner my whole life and best friend, Mr. James Watson.
I said, I want to be in a band no matter what. Oh, well, there it is. I got to move to Los Angeles. I said, I got to go to that place. If this California is supporting metal.
Me and James just started making music. Mastering the Metal, the story of James Watson and Eddie Bravo. Print and audiobook available now.
You know, we're the ones that are going to get taken away before tribulation comes, and they're applying this futurist lens to these words. But when you apply audience relevancy, who was Paul talking to? Who was Jesus saying these words to? It's likely those people that message was actually for. But we don't do that today for some reason. And this is hard for people to get grips to, because we are living under a serious deception in this little season. So, for example, a good way to contextualize this, we all know we've been lied to about the shape of the earth. Okay, we all know the scientific institutions, the academic institutions have been lying to us about everything, right? They've got false science, false history, false everything. It's the exact same thing for the seminaries, the places people go to learn their theology, to become pastors, to become churches, church leaders, you know. That's just as corrupt as any other educational institution, and they're teaching a specific doctrine, a false doctrine. Everything's still yet to come. We're waiting for Christ to return. But if you take Christ at his word, which is good enough for me, I'm not going to make him a liar. I believe him when he told those people in front of him he was coming back in their lifetime. I can only work backwards from there now. And working backwards from there, our community, which is growing every day, is uncovering more and more evidence to prove that tribulation did indeed happen. This earth has gone through a horrible cataclysm that fits and matches the description of tribulation perfectly. And yes, Christ did rule for 1,000 years with his saints. It's all there.
Now, when do you believe that the 1,000 years ended? Like in the 1700s?
Right. Well, our history's a lie. Don't forget, we're working backwards here. We have people working against us. Okay. It seems like, from what we've gathered, and I have a presentation on this from other researchers who aren't even Christians, who aren't even looking for this, archaeological researchers, you know, they're finding we have this time called the Dark Ages, don't we? And we don't really know what happened in that time because there's no history for it. It's likely this time we call the Dark Ages, which is 1,000 years from like 500 AD to 1,500 AD, was the 1,000-year reign of Christ. Lucifer certainly would call it the Dark Ages from his perspective, because he was underground, locked up for 1,000 years, you know. So for him, it was a dark age. But if people say in 1776 is perhaps when Satan was released, only because that was the establishment of the nation of America. And then the Statue of Liberty, if you look at it, is Lucifer, the light bearer, with an unbroken chain on their ankle. And they say it's a symbol for freedom, but it quite literally looks like and is modeled after the painting of Lucifer from an artist of the same time period. And the broken chain around the ankle matches perfectly with Satan being let loose from his imprisonment after 1,000 years. But it won't really be 1776. It's more likely 1076. Because this researcher, this German chronologist and archaeological researcher called Gunnar Heinzen, he basically, and then we have, again, the presentations there on my channel, there's an image exactly. So he basically thinks 700 years can be taken out of the first millennium. 700 years worth of history doesn't actually exist in the first millennium. We can only account for about 300 years worth. So he does this by going through the strata, the levels of archaeological digs. And he says there's nothing below Rome. There's nothing there. It's just Rome. Everything gets buried. And then there's a civilization that gets built on top of Rome, which comes into us today, kind of. But then you also have cathedrals being built, monasteries being built on top of Roman ruins and mixed in with Roman ruins. So something happened to Rome, and a massive cataclysm that wiped out 90% of the population of the earth. And then suddenly monasteries get built everywhere. And then there's a huge explosion. And then there's the Byzantine Empire, which we're told also lasted 1,000 years, which was Roman Christendom. Okay. So there is these hints throughout history that something happened involving Christ. And then we started dating Anno Domini, the year of our Lord. So it seems like these people only knew one thing. It's after Christ. That's all they knew in this time. So a new calendar was created. But if we can remove 700 years of history that doesn't exist because the strata isn't there to prove it, you know, we were told in the first millennium there was 3 disasters. There was the barbarian invasions in the 3rd century, and that kind of destroyed Rome, or at least half of Rome. And then in the 6th century, there was a huge, horrible cataclysm. It's called the worst year on record, 536 AD. You can type it in on Google. You'll find plenty of evidence to say what happened during this time. It's well documented. But if you want to talk about a tribulation style event, 536 AD is it. Everything that happened in that time matches up perfectly with the judgments of tribulation. There's plenty of things written about it. There's plenty of articles you can probably find where they summarize all the horrible things that happened during the reign. The year 536 was the worst year on record, as we know of, and then the subsequent years afterwards were just as bad because of the events of this year. The sun went dark for 18 months. There was a thick fog, ash over everything. That caused severe famines. All the crops failed. There was a mini ice age as a result of that. Volcanoes were popping off left, right, and center. That likely caused all that blacking out of the sun as well. Pestilence, disease, and famine run rife. Vast illnesses all over the place. Huge depopulation. We're talking like 90% of the population gone. The written records of this time, people were just chucking bodies into the ocean. They didn't know what to do with them. And then the people who also described living during that time were describing something like the Grim Reaper. People were seeing angels and demons when they caught the disease. People were knocking on their doors, and if they opened the door, they let the demon in, they would be dead like 3 days later. People were terrified to leave their houses. This was a terrible time to be alive. It matches up perfectly with the description of tribulation. Perfectly. Mass judgment everywhere. And they call it a climate catastrophe today or something. They try and chalk it up to natural disasters, but this is clearly the judgment. This is it. This is part of the tribulation event. And then in the 9th century, something similar happened. And there was more volcanoes and destruction and all these type of things. That's official history. 3 cataclysmic events separated by 700 years. However, you can just take the time out between all of that. That was one giant event that happened in the 1st century, 70 AD, as Christ promised would happen about 45 years after his death and resurrection. We know this because the Jewish temple, the judgment, which was said to happen in tribulation, in Revelation, basically the whore that rides the beast, and that is Jerusalem or Israel in cahoots with Rome, the beast. So, you know, the Jews teamed up with the Roman centurions to kill Jesus. You know, they really worked well with the Roman Empire. They were good citizens of Rome, you know. Those harlots who whored themselves out to the beast, they suffered their judgment when the temple was destroyed by the beast, as it's described in Revelation. Rome destroyed Jerusalem and its temple in 70 AD. And Flavius Josephus, he's a 1st century Jewish Roman historian. He documented the event, and he literally describes it as soldiers with chariots of fire in the sky raining down destruction on Jerusalem. And he says you wouldn't even believe it if it wasn't witnessed by everybody, and here I am documenting it, but that's what happened. And he also said before the Roman-Jewish war began in 66 AD, an enormous glowing sword in the sky hung over Jerusalem for a long time, and then sudden destruction came upon it with chariots of fire and all sorts of things as Rome invaded and destroyed it. And we're talking about the abomination of desolation, for example. This is a prediction for the tribulation events. You'll see the beast standing in the temple and perform the abomination of desolation. Well, that was described by Josephus as the Romans were sacrificing animals in the temple during that time. As like an FU to God, you know, and to the Jews, because they knew that would be a horrible thing for them to to happen to their temple, because the Romans were pagan. Don't forget, they had their own pagan traditions, and they spat in the face of the Israelites, and the Jews. So it's kind of, as they destroyed the temple, before destroying the temple, they did pagan sacrifices in the temple. So there's the abomination of desolation. Everything that we're predicting to yet happen in the future did happen in 70 AD. It did. And there's plenty of documentation to prove that it went down exactly as was predicted and told of to happen in Revelation. People try and say, well, he was so accurate in Revelation, he must have written the book afterwards. But he didn't mention specifically the destruction of the temple, that the temple was already destroyed in Revelation when he wrote it. So he must have written the book of Revelation before 70 AD, not 93 AD, as they try and say in the modern historian textbooks. He would have mentioned the temple being destroyed if that was the case, but he didn't. So even he was predicting the future when he wrote it, saying the temple's going to be destroyed and this is how it's going to go down. And it went down exactly as he said. And that's because it's the end of the old system. We're all one in Christ now. There's no special chosen people anymore. And salvation's to all, including the Gentiles, through Christ. But these people at the time wanted to remain special. They rejected Christ. They rejected their Savior. And they suffered a punishment as a result, which was the destruction of their land. And they were scattered as a people. But now it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you believe. Gentile, Jew, free or slave, man or woman. Everyone's got the gift of salvation through Christ now. We're all Israel now. We're all the body of Christ now, So what we have today is they're building a third temple, right? Nothing biblical about that. Nowhere in the Bible does it say, and they built a third temple, and then obviously the Antichrist came and all this type of stuff. It doesn't say anywhere. There's no biblical precedence for there needing to be a third temple being built. But because we're in the futurist mindset, people believe this is prophecy being fulfilled. They build that third temple in the Middle East. They can start making sacrifices in there again. And then the Antichrist can turn up and proclaim to be God inside the third temple. And then we can see the abomination of desolation happen. And then we know Christ is about to return. It's like, so you're telling me they're building a new temple in the Middle East to let the Antichrist go in and blaspheme God? That's nuts. And people think I'm insane. That's an insane belief. Why would you why would you build a temple for the Antichrist? Think about that. This is not profit.
So they're building this. It's not disputed. No. Who's building it? Israel?
Yeah.
Israel's building a third temple for the Antichrist. What is their excuse for doing that?
Well, they want to bring in their savior. They believe Christ, their savior, is yet to come. Okay.
Oh, so they're going to lure the devil in and trap him or something with this
to let him. Well, they're building it to let the Antichrist fulfill prophecy, because if there's no temple, then Revelation can't come to pass.
Oh, so it's deception. So
they're fabricating it, and this is what it's come down to now. We are living in a time in Satan's little season where he is quite literally fabricating the tribulation story. They're going to use everything they've got in their disposal, all their technology, everything. They can control the weather, for God's sake. They can do anything they want. They have all the money and resources and power in the world. Okay? They can make it look like tribulation is coming upon us if they want to. And they're going to do it because they want everybody to believe Christ is about to return. They're keeping us trapped forever in this loop where we think Christ is right around the corner. Okay? There's always going to be a new mark of the beast. It's chip and pin, it's RFID chips, it's Neuralink, or it's, I don't know, it's some transhumanist black goo or something. There's always going to be something. They're always going to hint, this could be the mark of the beast, guys. This could be it. There's always going to be a new Antichrist figure. It's been every president since history's began, right? This guy's definitely the Antichrist, you know what I mean? But that's because they were always stringing you along with that carrot. Any minute now, you're going to get raptured. Jesus is going to turn up any minute now. Look, another tribulation sign. Look at that. Oh, look at wars and rumors of wars over there. Oh, you've got the river Euphrates is drying up. They're always playing these games.
Yeah, but if we're in a satanic little season currently, eventually, isn't Jesus planning to return and ending this little season? Is that in the Bible?
Only once. It's Revelation 20. Yes, he comes to establish a new heaven and earth after the little season. But how long's a little season? Well, how long's a piece of string? It's as long as it takes for Satan to gather an army, the number of the sands of the sea from the deceived nations, to go make war with some city somewhere on earth, some odd hidden place known as the beloved city, which surrounds the camp of saints. So there's a place on earth somewhere, which is going to be a mystery. We don't know where this place is. We just know the saints are there. And the saints are those who are resurrected to rule for 1,000 years with Christ. So is Christ there as well, or is he in heaven in the beloved city? Well, it's described after Revelation that once the fire rains down from heaven, the heavenly city, New Jerusalem, Mount Zion, will descend out of heaven. Okay, it will come out of the clouds. And this is Christ's bride, as it's described metaphorically. It's his city. So where he will rule for eternity on the new heaven and earth, this giant floating city, basically. It's described as basically the dimensions being like a cube, but it's the size of a continent. It's like 1,600 miles by 1,600 miles. It's unprecedented how large this thing is. Now, how long's a piece of string? How long's a little season? It's as long as it takes for the devil to convince humanity to go and attack this thing, this city of some kind that's on earth, whether it's the floating city of New Jerusalem or it's a lesser version on earth before New Jerusalem comes down, like a Wakanda type thing. Suddenly, everyone just witnesses this super advanced city in the middle of the earth somehow. It's been cloaked for so long and now suddenly it's appeared, you know. Everyone will freak out. Everyone will think aliens have invaded or something because that's where the programming's taken us. Nobody has any context to understand or make sense of such a thing happening. So if the giant mothership comes down or New Jerusalem comes down, everyone's going to think aliens are attacking us or something like that. Or if a massive city just suddenly appears in the north and everyone can see its peaks, this giant mountain suddenly appears because a veil's been lifted off of it. People are going to freak out and again think we're under attack by aliens or underground interdimensionals. I don't know. Whatever programming they've given to us, it's to not trust the other when it returns. And I've theorized how this will go down. I don't know. But it seems like they're prepping us through programming for an alien invasion. Okay. And the only thing I can contextualize biblically an alien invasion is New Jerusalem appears and everyone thinks it's a giant mothership from space because that's what they've been programmed to believe in. But we're in an enclosed biblical system. There is no space with aliens. The only context I can make for that is that New Jerusalem becomes visible and people freak out. So at that point, that's enough to rally the whole earth together as one army, isn't it? Let's all get together to defend ourselves against this common threat to all of humanity. I'm sure there'll be some...
Independence Day, Lord of the Rings.
It's every movie ever.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings, you know. And if you didn't want to team up with everybody, those are the castles that got slaughtered like right away.
Oh yeah, well, people like me who would say, "Nah, bro, that's Jesus. I'm not going to go attack Jesus." Right? I'd be a traitor to humanity. There's nothing worse. I want humanity to die. I'm not going to defend humanity against the evil invading aliens. Because get this, because look, they're going to fake an alien invasion when this happens. Whatever becomes visible in the north, whether it's just a giant city or a floating city or the camp of saints, we'll call it, the beloved city, New Jerusalem, Mount Zion, this place where Christ rules from his throne. Whenever it becomes visible, that's when the evil controllers will release what they've got. And they likely have their own UFOs stashed away. They likely have their own monsters in these underground labs they've been genetically engineering. They have everything ready to go to make it look like we are under attack by aliens. And it'll just be them attacking us, you know, with their advanced technology. And then I'm sure the first wave will get pushed back. Maybe the evil alien greys we know so much in the alien verse, you know, they probably made those things in labs and they'll send them out to attack us in their flying saucers. And we'll push back the alien greys, the first wave, with the help of some kind of intergalactic species that comes out of nowhere at the last minute, you know. And these will be the fallen angels. This will be Lucifer. This will be the devil, you know, representing himself as the savior of mankind. And he'll push back the evil alien greys and they'll return to the mothership as we've been told or something. And then he'll say to humanity, we are from the Galactic Federation of the Pleiades or something, and we seeded Earth millions of years ago, and we're here to help you ascend to the next level of evolutionary consciousness. Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, guys.
I believed all that. My jiu-jitsu association is called 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, and it was all based on Zachariah Sitchin's Anunnaki stories and all that. I bought that hook, line, and sinker. I was so into it. I was
prepping people for it. Yeah,
now
exactly.
Now 10th Planet is like, okay, for me, it was like nonfiction in the beginning, and I was way into it. I was going to call my jiu-jitsu Association Nibiru Jiu-Jitsu. And then Joe Rogan said, why don't you just call it 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu? Because it was supposed to be like the 10th planet. And I'm like, nah, that sounds stupid. I'm going to call it Nibiru Jiu-Jitsu. And then like 5 minutes later, I'm like, you know what? 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu is perfect. All of a sudden, I liked it. And now I tell everybody, that's like Death Star Jiu-Jitsu. It's fiction. It's some science fiction. It's like Dragon Fire Jiu-Jitsu. So it used
so you get it then? You get it then?
Yeah, I'm not going to change the name. So now I got some shirts to say 10th Playing now. I take the T out and it says 10th Playing Jiu-Jitsu. So, but not everybody that's in my association believes in flat Earth. You know, I'm like, that's the 10th planet. I made that's for the guys that are with me, but not everybody in my association is with me in regards to flat Earth. But that shirt right there is for the ones that are with me.
Well, you don't have to convince me. I got my flat Earth degree like 8 years ago, so I'm there with you, man. I get it. You know?
What was your story to flat Earth? Like, what made you? How did it go down? Did you have a friend that kept bringing it up?
No, well, I'm just the guy who's into conspiracies. So I've researched it all and the evidence.
Well, you had to have thought it was retarded at first, right?
No, I'm a very open-minded person. If you can't tell, so I'm very much I'm gonna go with it and accept it.
Was it
all,
Eric Dubé that got you into it?
The whole crew. There was a lot of guys around back then, wasn't there? You know, there was like round table discussions about it all as well at the time, and I remember it all.
What year?
But it was, what year did it all break? Like 2014? Was that the year it all kind of came about?
I think it was 2015.
15 around that time.
Oh, so right at the top, you jumped up.
Dubé was late 2014. Everyone else kind of came in early 2015, and as far as I remember.
Yeah. I was very much in the culture of conspiracy. So when a new topic came up, I was there straight away. You know what I mean? In Flat Earth, I was there from the beginning, and I rode the wave, because I was just questioning everything, and it was pretty obvious that was true, because I don't have any dogmas to cling on to. I wasn't wedded to the heliocentric model. You know what I mean? It's not like, how do I was already under the presupposition that we've been lied to about everything. So I'm open to listen to and anything, and it makes sense. But I don't know the exact shape. I'm always been called, I call myself a biblical cosmologist. I know it's an enclosed system, but I don't claim to understand the true nature of God's creation. I was not there when he laid the foundations of the earth. I think it's far more psychedelic than we can comprehend, way more multidimensional and beyond our comprehension on higher levels than we even understand. From our perspective, it looks like a flat plane. From his perspective, who knows? It's nuts, you know, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with some mystery. I don't have to know it all. I don't have to have a perfect model in my mind to accept God's word that it's an enclosed system that he created and space isn't real, you know? So that's kind of where I'm at with that idea.
Nice. Now, yeah. So you said 1776 is when you think the 1,000-year Jesus Christ reign ended. That's pretty crazy that like 1776 is like the birth of the United States, the Statue of Liberty.
So much happened in that time. It was it was a lot of civil war as well, the Russian Civil War as well. They obviously had Napoleonic Wars happening at the same time. Europe and the whole earth was in like tumultuous times, especially in Europe.
It makes sense that time, like, because I mean, obviously there was some kind of highly advanced civilization with all the structures and all the buildings everywhere that we can't even make today. Not that humans didn't make them. People are like, oh no, we can make them today with like some high level technological.
We can make them today. We have done. Dresden, in fact, is a great example of this. So Dresden, a lot of it was carpet bombed in the World War II and utterly just destroyed. In fact, the atrocities that the UK committed on the German people was unprecedented. That was a horrible one that people don't talk about. But Dresden was considered the most beautiful European city to ever exist, and it was flattened. But there was one cathedral they've just rebuilt recently, which was around during that time, and it's perfect replica, the exact copy. They've even kept one of the walls that was still standing, just the one eastern wall, the old brick, and they've rebuilt the whole thing. We can build them today. What we're saying is they should not have been able to build them then, based on the story.
I mean, even Caesar's Palace in Vegas, I mean, it's pretty amazing. I mean, it looks like Tartaria structure, you know what I mean? So, yeah, no one's saying that, oh, humans didn't build them, aliens built them. No, we're not saying aliens built them. We're just saying back in the 1800s when there was no power tools, supposedly, and you got these crazy structures. How about, I mean, I don't know if you heard of that structure it's in Brazil, but according to the story, it was built like in Portugal, and it's like this insane palace where they deconstructed it in Portugal, put it on a ship, and then put it back together in Brazil. Have you heard about this?
There's a lot of stories like that. There's a lot of stories like that.
It's on. Do you follow My Lunch Break?
Yeah. I'm plugged into most of the guys out there who. Yeah.
He's got an episode on that. It's like this insane palace. It's like the most incredible structure. And they're saying that it was built in Portugal and they took it apart, put it on ships, and then reassembled it in Brazil. It's insane.
Like the story. Well, the thing is, we say it's impossible for them to do these things. We don't actually know what they were dealing with back then, what life was like. Let's say it was the Millennial Reign. Imagine a world where humanity for 1,000 years has not had the devil there to slow them down, whispering in people's ears, turning brother against brother, making people doubt themselves, being the accuser, which is what basically being the adversary of humanity, which is what Satan means, the adversary. Man, unencumbered by that for 1,000 years, can probably achieve incredible things, do amazing things, and make a beautiful world in 1,000 years with the help of resurrected halo saints who have the knowledge of God himself and are interdimensionals with light bodies, also there to usher mankind through this time, as kings and rulers over these things, and righteous justice. Like there was justice at this time with an iron rod. People, no nonsense, no crime, not allowed, just pure righteousness. Imagine what mankind could do in 1,000 years with that mindset and that love and that desire to want to be and do good. And also you have Jesus ruling during that time, possibly walking around making visits. It's kind of like, what are we going to do with our city for the king's visit? What are we going to build? What are we going to create? And you create these beautiful monuments that are a testimony to form and beauty and style beyond any comprehension of what we even bother to do today. We're utilitarian. We build our buildings for function and purpose. We make cubes, concrete cubes quickly. They didn't. They built intricate, unnecessarily designed ziggurats and structures and monuments for no reason whatsoever, just because they had the time and the resources to do that.
I want that upper body clench. That's what I'm going after. With the underhook, looking for double underhooks. That's a juicy ass clench. Perfect double underhooks. You're on your side. Boom. That's all perfect. That's huge. In my game, for me, I'm like, I got this motherfucker. First fight in Abu Dhabi, 2003, against Gustavo Dantas. I got right in and got perfect double underhooks. I'm like, oh my God, had him in a lockdown, perfect double underhook, really quick. He just gave it to me. And I was just sitting there going, oh my God, he just gave it to me. That was just off a front headlock, 100%. Push into him. You want to smash him and then jump on that leg. You want to rush them so they don't have so they're off balance. You jump on that leg, you hook that leg, you're going to take their back or put them in the truck. Either one. Does that make sense?
Because they didn't have to work. They may not even have to eat. You look at places like some of these old world buildings, they didn't have toilets. Like, it's very odd. Like, who knows what it was like? We can only imagine.
Yeah, look at that. That's, what the fuck? Imagine what day one was like post the 1,000-year Jesus Christ reign. Imagine that first day after the 1,000 years.
Well, I reckon there was a huge power vacuum. The king is gone and his saints are gone. They've receded back to the center, to the camp of saints, and then who's going to rule? I reckon that's when the wars kicked off. That's when mankind's true nature came back out again. Satan's just been released. So he's there at it, making people, you should be the ruler. No. Then going to the other guy saying, he wants to get you. I think you should get him before he gets you. I think he wants to be king now. And then everyone starts turning against each other. And then you see a decline from that golden age into chaos, sudden chaos. And then there's a full takeover. And I think this is where we're getting to secret societies. This is why secret societies had to be secret societies during the Millennial Reign, because you weren't allowed to go against Christ openly during that time. There were severe consequences, okay, righteous judgments. And I think if we look at Daniel 7, towards the end of Daniel 7, so this is a prophecy made 400 years before Christ, okay? And he's talking about what's to come when Christ turns up, basically. And at the back end of Daniel 7, I can't remember the exact verse right now, but it's get Daniel 7, go to the end. He's explaining what will happen to those when the system's destroyed. I'll get it up and I'll read it to you. But this basically contextualizes everything. So he has a vision, basically. So go to 22 there, verse 22. The fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth. So this is Rome, okay? It shall be diverse from all kingdoms and shall devour the whole earth and shall tread it down and break it into pieces. All roads lead to Rome. Okay, Rome was not just a place in Italy. It was a conglomerate of countries all under one banner, under one union known as the Roman Empire. Okay, it went over the whole earth. And then they had many kings over this. And they shall be diverse from the other and shall subdue 3 kings, blah, blah, blah. And he says, he speak great words against the Most High. And it says that, go to number 22 again, sorry, just so it's on the screen. It says there, until the Ancient of Days came and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. And this whole passage basically goes on to explain, they will be given Rome after the millennial, well, after tribulation. So whatever's left after tribulation of the old Roman Empire, the pillared, columned buildings, you know, that were all over the place. There's Roman buildings everywhere, even today, with that Roman style. They will be given to the saints, given over to them after tribulation. They will inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth is what this means. Okay, and so this is Daniel 400 years before Christ explaining clearly the saints will get to have the kingdoms, the beast kingdoms. They'll have Rome. They'll be given to them. They get to rule Rome now. And it says somewhere, they will have to live with extended life. These are the beasts and the kings. They'll have to live through the millennial reign and watch their kingdom being ruled by the saints. So it says here somewhere, it's been a while since I've read this one, but it all just came back to me quickly now.
Now who's Daniel? and he was around 400 years before Jesus.
He was a prophet of God. Yeah, he was the last prophet before the final prophecy came, before Jesus came. And well, no, he wasn't the last one, but this is a big prophecy. This is a big prophecy 400 years
What's
prior.
his last name? They just called him Daniel? Like, what's his full name?
I'm not sure. The Prophet Daniel is all I'm aware of.
Prophet Daniel. Okay.
I never bothered to look into his last name. But here, I beheld the same horn, made the war with the saints, prevailed against them. This is actually right here. This is the interpretation of the vision he had. If you go to the top, maybe somewhere in the middle, it will come up eventually. So let's just read this bit. The Son of Man came in the clouds of heaven. So this is talking about Jesus returning. They brought him near. And there was given him dominion and a glory and a kingdom, and that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. So this is 1,000-year reign. Okay. The Son of Man comes, establishes 1,000-year reign. All the nations have to worship Christ. Okay. It's an everlasting dominion, so he never stops. Just because Satan's released, he still owns the earth. He's still here on earth, okay? And his kingdom which shall not be destroyed. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit about the vision. It troubled me. I asked him for the truth and the interpretation of the things. The great beasts which are four kings which shall arise out of the earth. So these are talking about all the kingdoms up until Rome. And the final one is Rome, which is an amalgamation of all the previous kingdoms that came before it. The saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and ever and ever. So the saints get everything. Basically, they inherit.
But not
the earth.
forever and ever, only for 1,000 years.
But after the 1,000 years over in the new heaven and earth, they'll reestablish their positions as kings and rulers over the earth again. You know
and
what I
now
mean?
now supposedly they're Jesus and the saints, the apostles, they're in the North Pole.
That's what we think. And Joe, it's just a funny way to understand this, but just to cap off this Daniel 7 thing here. So this means after the millennial reign, so after the initial destruction and the establishment of the kingdom, we have Roman ruins and Roman buildings still standing, some of them somewhere. So amidst the ruins, we start seeing Gothic architecture appear, which is way more advanced than Roman architecture. That's the Millennial Kingdom architecture being built within the Roman architecture. And you see that everywhere. You'll see Roman architecture, then Gothic cathedrals, all kind of next to each other in any city you go to.
Yeah.
Because there's two different styles of architecture that come out one after the other. But I do believe the kings were made to live with extended life. It says somewhere in there in Daniel 7. I'm sorry, I can't give the exact number, but it is there. They have to live for a time and a season. So the little season and the time of the 1,000 years, they have to live with extended life and watch their kingdom being ruled by saints. That's kind of like a punishment to the kings, the beasts. It's possible they're the ones that started the secret societies. So after the reign, when Satan's let loose, they were there waiting for Satan, basically. And they're the secret societies we have today who have been rewriting history. The Freemasons claim to have built everything. They just found all the Freemasonry left over after the Millennial Reign and took it for themselves. So that's kind of a joke in their name, technically. It's free real estate. So they inherited all these buildings after the reign. They took them back. The beasts took back their buildings. They took back Rome. And that's why we kind of live today in like a Romanesque revival empire. It's all kind of, we're obsessed with Rome today, and it's kind of modeled after Rome today. It's because I think the beasts who lived during that time, these are possibly the heads of the Illuminati. These are the 13 power blood families that run the whole secret society system. These are the ones who took everything back for the little season. So that's why secret societies pretty much rule supreme now. I believe they were the ones Daniel was talking about who had to live through the Millennial Reign. And they just took it back, you know.
What do you think of what's going on with Israel and that whole area these days?
Well, there's not really much you can say about that without getting cancelled, I suppose. But it's kind of, I don't believe that what we call Israel today. I'm starting to look into this and think maybe that's not the real Jerusalem. That's not where it all really went down. It's a decoy in a sense. And a lot of stuff happened elsewhere in the world because I think a lot of the earth was destroyed and separated, and islands and continents were shifted and moved during tribulation. A massive destruction event, you know. And I think the people today claiming to be God's chosen, they're not really. That's all I can really probably say on that, to be safe. They're not the real ones, okay? We've been messed with massively. That's all I can probably say on that.
What did you hear yesterday? Trump said that he had a press conference with Bibi Netanyahu, and he said, you know what? You know what we're going to do with Gaza? The U.S. is going to take over. We're going to rebuild it, and everyone can live there. The Palestinians, it's going to be like a international spot, and it's going to be safe, and the U.S. is going to own it. Did you hear it? He said that yesterday.
I didn't hear that. No.
It's crazy.
It's all lining up.
Bibi Netanyahu was like, his body language was saying like, yo, what do you mean you guys are going to own it? We're going to own it. And Trump said, no, it hasn't worked. You know, we can't go back to the old way because, you know, if we go back to the old way, it's just going to more of the same, just nothing but, you know, war. So
well, with the amount of money America's sent there, they practically own the place anyway. I mean, it's all part and parcel for this end time tribulation deception, I would say. They're trying to recreate that scene. Are we going to play that?
Yeah, go. You know what? Here. Oh, okay. Let me. Okay, go ahead and play that.
Our meetings today, the Prime Minister and I focused on the future, discussing how we can work together to ensure Hamas is eliminated and ultimately restore peace to a very troubled region. It's been troubled, but what's happened in the last 4 years has not been good. I also strongly believe that the Gaza Strip, which has been a symbol of death and destruction for so many decades and so bad for the people anywhere near it, and especially those who live there, and frankly, who's been really very unlucky. It's been very unlucky. It's been an unlucky place for a long time.
Look at Bibi. He's going, what are you talking about?
Just has not been good, and it should not go through a process of rebuilding and occupation by the same people that have really stood there and fought for it and lived there and died there and lived a miserable existence there. Instead, we should go to other countries of interest with humanitarian hearts, and there are many of them that want to do this, and build various domains that will ultimately be occupied by the 1.8 million Palestinians living in Gaza, ending the death and destruction and, frankly, bad luck
Look at
This can be
Bibi.
paid for by neighboring
what the fuck
countries
are you
of great
saying?
wealth. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it too. We'll own it and be responsible for
He's like, what?
dismantling
You'll
all
own
of the
it?
dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
Yo, are you looking at BB? He's freaking the fuck out. He's like, yo, that wasn't the deal. That's our shit. That's our shit. U.S. Like Trump just basically saying we can't do the same thing we did before. We're gonna take it over. And he said we're gonna bring in different countries to own little pieces of it.
That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. Like
that's crazy. Like nobody expected that. Nobody expected that.
Well, I theorized if we were in the little season, then the end objective is to create an army that's willing to defend all of humanity against something. The camp of saints, and people don't just go to war for nothing. Like they need something to believe in. They need to believe they're doing the right thing. They need to, And I feel like Trump, if time is really short and we're at the end of the little season, I don't know where we are, by the way. I'm not saying time is short, but it seems like he's doing everything great, perfect. He's giving people a good life. He's giving them back what they need after almost a decade of extreme left-wing oppression in every aspect of our life, you know. And he's kind of swinging it hard the other way now and giving everything they want. We were told, we were scared it's going to be you'll eat the bugs and be happy. Yeah. Now Trump's saying you can have your steak and have the whole cow while you're at it. It's the other way. You know what I mean? It's kind of
drill.
Everyone's happy. Yeah, everyone's happy. And it's like prosperity, promises of a wonderful future. And I can't help but feel like he's just playing the part of giving people something worth fighting for. If you ask me, he's gonna create a world that seems perfect. So then when the aliens turn up, it's kind of like, we need to defend this. I don't want to lose my stuff. I don't want to lose my house, my car, my family, my money, my savings, everything I've got, my good life, But if people are living in squalor and hate existence, it's kind of finally the aliens are here, just destroy it all already. That's not good enough for an army. Like no one's going to join that army, But if you give people something worth fighting for, then you've got people ready to enlist instantly, And I feel like Trump's that guy who's going to be that false savior for now, who's going to fix everything perfectly to the point just in time before New Jerusalem rocks back up and everyone's in alien programming mode. That's just a working theory, but a lot of people point to him saying he's the Antichrist who are in the futurist doctrine, the Christian types. A lot of Christians are on his side as well. It's a really confusing time for Christianity with this one. People don't know what to do with Trump. They don't know what to make.
Yeah,
of him,
whether he's the Antichrist or not, I mean, we had two choices. We already know a million. Like, we don't know if Trump is legit. Like, what if he's just a really good person who loves his family and he loves his country and he realizes that being a billionaire in a Venezuela country ain't shit, And I think that's what him and Elon may be thinking. Like, yo, being a billionaire in a fucking third world country, we're gonna be, on high alert, from being kidnapped and killed all the time. So I don't know. Maybe Trump is a good person. He loves his family. He loves his kids. It looks like he loves his kids. I don't know. And he loves his country. And he's always been saying that for decades, that he didn't want to be president, but we're being screwed in business and trade. And he's fixing all that with the tariffs. If he was a shill, why is he pulling out of the Paris Accords? Just leave that alone. If he's a shill, they go, yo, Trump, shut the fuck up about the climate change. We want the climate change. No, he's saying climate change is bullshit. And what about all the electric cars? He's going, fuck electric cars. We're going to drill. What about the DEI? He should have, if he was a shill, he would just shut the fuck up about the DEI. Just let that shit go. Let everyone chop their dicks off. He's like, no, we're not doing that shit. We got two genders. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of shit that he's doing that he didn't need to do if he was a shill. Like, get out of the WHO. If he was a shill, they would go, no, we're stay in the WHO, you motherfucker. That's New World Order right there. The WHO, they were about to control every country, if there was some kind of medical, like a pandemic or some kind of fucking global emergency.
But I feel like a lot of these evil systems which Trump is now going against were built to fall. This is the point. We're supposed to think like we've gained back control and we're winning. This is how control works.
Okay. That's a theory. That's a theory.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying, that's a theory we don't know, but what we don't know for sure, but what we do know 1,000,000% is the other side is evil, demonic, and satanic. We know that.
Overtly so, though, right? A bit obviously. Like
that's
it's kind of
that's 1,000,000%. So the Trump
why
side,
so obvious,
even though it's 50-50, we gotta go with the Trump side. Even though it's 50-50, because maybe he's a shill. But why all this shit could have been accomplished without Trump. Like if it's like some shilly thing and like some satanic thing, just do what they always did. Do what they always did. Just own both sides. Like when like Obama was running against, like who was he running against? Like John McCain or Mitt Romney. Like why not just keep doing that? That was working fucking great. Right? No one knew shit. No one knew. Everybody was asleep. Why are you waking people up? Because the people that are waking up aren't shills. Why even do that? Why wake people up? Now there's more anti-vaxxers than ever before. Like the anti-vax movement is huge, and people say that Trump pretended to be a pro-vax just to put a spotlight on vaccines. And now look what Operation Warp Speed. Think about that name, Operation Warp Speed. That is the dumbest fucking name for an operation to make a vaccine. It should have been Operation Take Your Time, do the trials, make sure it's safe and effective. Dude, you don't want to rush that shit. You're going to be injecting it in everybody. Take your time. But Operation Warp Speed, a speed that doesn't even exist unless you're in Star Wars. That to me, and Trump was always anti-vax. There's all these old tweets where he was always anti-vax. And all of a sudden, he's super pro-vax. I think it was to put a spotlight on the whole vax. Now, not only is everyone questioning the COVID vaccine, but now everyone's questioning all the childhood vaccines. Everybody is going into that shit. There's more anti-vaxxers than ever before. And I don't know, maybe that's what he's doing with Israel. Like with Israel, he's like super pro Israel only to put a spotlight on it. Because right now it's like, the spotlight on Israel and everything that's going on is like, it's so bright. Everyone's looking at it now. You know what I mean? So, and look at people say, oh, Trump, why didn't he fire Fauci? Why didn't he fire? If he would have fired Fauci, nobody would do anything about Fauci. But you keep him on, put the spotlight on him. And then everything comes up. All the shit he did with AIDS and everything. Fauci might not be able to walk the streets real soon. You know what I mean? But if Trump would have fired him, he would have got away with everything.
I think the saying is keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Then I suppose he's playing that tactic.
Exactly. Everybody's getting exposed. I don't know.
The thing is, I don't deny that Trump might have good intentions. I'm always one to assume ignorance before malevolence. I assume he might just not know a few things and he's just going along doing what he wants to do and it's working out nicely, And I do think there may be a level of 4D chess to some level, some work going on. But fundamentally as a Christian, I believe we're not wrestling against flesh and blood here. Like there are probably forces working through Trump or behind Trump that even he doesn't know about, higher powers making things happen, and he's just being used by God to make pieces move on the board, and God can do that. He can use anybody anytime he wants, good or evil, for his purpose and his agenda. So yeah, I'd say reap the benefits and the rewards while things are good. There's nothing wrong with that. Render unto Caesar what is his, and when in Rome, do as the Romans do in that sense, and if Trump's making everything perfect and giving you tax breaks, reap the benefits of that while at it, but don't make an idol out of him. He's just a man. That's what we have to always remember. But it's definitely fun to watch everything collapse that has been against us, and it's definitely fun to watch him do his thing.
And they're definitely like the left or the liberals, I don't think it's if he's a shill, then it's all theater and they're all just pretending to go after him. and all these lawsuits all the lawfare and the CIA with the Russian collusion and the FBI, like that's all theater, or are they really going after him? I think they're really
theater's
going
a good
after
word
him.
for it, because masonry does work with, it's called Masonic theater. They create the good side and the bad side and pit them against each other and make the public believe there's a narrative at work here. But the synthesis is always pre-planned. It could be theater, which is why you should always have that level of step back. Okay, I'll watch and enjoy the show. But don't get too invested in the characters, because you don't know the true intentions or what's going on. The whole world is a stage, and they have their players ready to go. And they've been doing.
But when you have two sides to choose, I mean, you got to go. I mean, again, I don't trust anybody 100%. Trump could be a shill. I guess he could be, but I know 1,000,000% the other side are demons.
That's true. There is that. Yeah.
That's
There is one thing called the externalization of the hierarchy, though. This is a long-term agenda through Helena Blavatsky, the Theosophical Society, and Alice Bailey. They've been talking about this for over 100 years, and they are a New Age cult sect think tank. They have the Lucis Trust, which is even today involved with the UN. They're like an advisory body, shall we say. And they are Luciferians by nature. They quite literally had a magazine called Lucifer, which they turned into the Lucis Trust, the light bearer. And they've talked repeatedly about the externalization of the hierarchical hidden hand. And there will come a time where they will organize and orchestrate events to let the people know who's really in control. But they'll do it in a way where it's so controlled and drip feed that the people will be passive about it and accept it and even want to join. We could be seeing that now. They're externalizing all the evil, all the hidden hands, all the control mechanisms. They're letting the world know how things have really been run and how the people who really run the things and what their intentions really are. Trump could be playing that role to do that for the Theosophical Society, and it's externalizing everything. It could be. So when these agendas have been going on 100 years in the making, I'm extremely wary of anything. I'm not black pilled. I'm optimistic fundamentally. I got this when I was 17. By nature, I'm an optimist. Okay, I just am. I can't help it. I think all things are going to work out in the end for good, for God as it is. And again, whether Trump's evil or not, just sit back and watch it unfold, because there's not a damn thing you can do to stop it either way. God's in control, and if we're in the little season, this is all just going towards building an army in some way. So just be wary of that. All that really counts is, are you saved? Are you covered by Jesus and his sacrifice for whatever's to come afterwards? Because there's very little you can do to save the world. You can't save the world. The world will burn, whether you like it or not, and all you can really focus on is your own salvation. So for me, it is just a show from that perspective, and a fascinating one, a fun one. You're talking about the center of the earth, and Jesus might be there. There's a fun way you can understand how in the little season they have satanically inverted that idea. It's called Santa Claus.
Yeah,
we have this being that lives up there that has a list, and he's checking it twice. Jesus has the book of life, whether you're in it or not, counts on your salvation. And he has his little elves up there helping him do his thing. Well, Jesus has his saints up there doing his thing, and keeping his kingdom running. And he's an omnipotent God-like figure, just Jesus is the God of this world. He is king, he is Christ, he's the ruler. Santa Claus is basically a capitalist inversion of the spiritual Christ. And they're telling you who lives in the North Pole. Everything in this world is geared towards telling you the truth about how this world really works. If you pay attention, it's all hidden there. Every movie ever has been telling you this, what I'm telling you about this little season. It's just hidden under nuanced Gnostic kind of inversions, you know what I mean, in some way. And Satan's having a laugh at our expense. But look at this map here, this very old map. This is what people understood was in the center at one point. And this is got the Garden of Eden. This is New Jerusalem with the 4 rivers running out from it. The Euphrates being one of them that runs down there into Europe. People think the Euphrates is this random river in the Middle East. The river Euphrates comes out from the North Pole. So people are pointing to this river saying it's drying up. See, prophecy's being fulfilled. Tribulation's about to happen. That's not even the river Euphrates. That's not even the right river. It's not even the right river. It's like this one of these that runs out from this center point here. And the Black Rock, the Rupus Nigra in the middle there, New Jerusalem. Black Rock is like the most powerful company in the world today. It's named after this thing because that's where the seat of all power truly is. That's where the throne of God truly is. He's right here on earth with us. This is what will be surrounded. Now, if you can convince the whole earth to come together as one army, it says that they march up the wide plane of the earth, the breadth of the earth. Well, if it's a flat surface, then the Kappa Saint is surrounded as soon as everybody's turned against them, because it's a circular model and everyone just goes north, you know. And I think we're slowly being geared towards that somehow. And I think there'll be a level of deception at play. I don't think people are going to know it's Jesus they're making war with. I think they're going to get heavily deceived. Hopefully, God will have some grace for those people in the end of judgment. He knows
you think Game of Thrones has something to do with that? Like the White Walkers and the
White Walkers
ice
in
wall.
the North.
They're
well,
evil.
well, what does the White Walker King, the King of the North, do? He resurrects the dead and makes them a part of his kingdom. You know, it's a satanic inversion of Christ again. Yeah, they know what's going on. They're telling you over and over again, but they're twisting Christ to be an evil figure. Like I said, Thanos, the evil invading God from space in his ship called Sanctuary, this floating city of a sorts, comes to bring judgment to all of existence.
For all your 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu merchandise, please visit 10thplanetjj.com/shop. We also got a Look Into It t-shirt that just dropped. Thank you very much for your support.
You know, to bring balance back to the universe. Well, that's Christ going to destroy this corrupt life and bring a new heaven and earth, isn't it? You know, it's all just an inversion. All the media is geared towards making Jesus a bad guy, but they'll never call it Jesus. You know, they'll call it something else, like the Ice King or something. I don't know. Yeah, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And they've been telling us for a long time. I'll say that. It's one of those things. Once you see the symbol, you see it everywhere. Now I've told you this, Eddie, you're going to see it everywhere. I guarantee it.
Are you working on a book on this subject?
Like I said, this book is fantastic. It's a good 50-page introduction to concepts, summary of everything. Okay, and it's easy to read. Go and get it. This is what it looks like: the return of Jesus and where we are now in the biblical timeline. The author's called Jesus Kept His Word. He's actually called Robert. He's a really nice guy. This is selling like wildfire now. He sold like 1,000 copies. I might write a book once I finished my Nephilim Look Like Clowns series. I'm just writing the second book for this. Then that's boxed off. And then, yeah, I might write a book about this subject to further it. But this movement, this idea, it's anathema to the modern church. Honestly, I'm a heretic for even suggesting such a thing. But all the evidence is clear. It's as plain as day. This is what the truth is. This is what Christ was really meaning when he said he was coming quickly. In Revelation, the very first line in Revelation is, "These things must shortly come to pass. Behold, I come quickly." And it ends with, "Do not seal up the sayings of this scroll. Go out and tell everybody, John, I'm coming back quickly." Okay, so he was pretty adamant. It's happening now in his time, not 2,000 years later for us today somehow. And I would implore people to really sincerely look into this. I've just scratched the surface with you today. Like, seriously, this is not as deep as it. This goes way deeper than what I've mentioned today. But I've thousands of hours worth of videos for this. There are quite a lot of us now in this growing community. It's a massive community. I've got 2,000 Telegram members who are joining in on this as well. We're growing massively and quickly every day. I'm getting pastors messaging me. I'm getting people messaging me saying, atheists messaging me saying finally the faith has come back to them. Now they understand this, because this doesn't make Jesus a liar. Okay, because this is the problem. Even C.S. Lewis, he was quoting some people who were saying the apostles thought Jesus was coming back in their time. And they had a good reason to believe that. Their master told them. But where is he? Clearly, Jesus knew no more about the end of time than anybody else. And then C.S. Lewis agrees with that concept and says this is a big embarrassment for Christianity. No, Jesus told the truth. He didn't lie. It's not an embarrassment. He was honest. He is not a failed prophet. He was the Son of God, and he came back when he promised he would come back, and he set up a kingdom on this earth for 1,000 years. As soon as people know that, the argument's gone of like, well, where is he then? No, it's been 2,000 years. How long are you going to wait for? You know, the typical atheist mockery. It's kind of like, we didn't wait. Like, it happened. And right around the corner is the final judgment. Like, any minute now. I don't know when. I couldn't say. But there's still a war to kick off yet. You know, so I think we've got some time. But be wary of these things. I implore any Christian out there. The people who are against me the most are Christians. I would say that. But atheists, this makes sense to them. This finally contextualizes things for them. People are on the fence or think Christ was just a symbol. They come as well. And then there's like the past people who've fallen away from Christianity have come back to Christianity thanks to this topic. The testimonies I'm getting from people are wild. I get people telling me who are pastors saying, I believe this, Paul, but I can't tell my congregation because I'll lose my job. Like they can't talk about it because they're all taught futurist doctrine in seminaries, and they have to tell that doctrine in churches or they'll be kicked out as a heretic of some kind, and they'll lose their job and their position, and their money basically. And the congregation might stop coming because, well, you don't need these churches in a little season when it comes to this type of thing. All you need is a personal relationship with Christ. It's wild and it's growing rapidly, and this isn't going away. And as much as people would love it to go away, it's not going anywhere because there are a lot of people out there who have invested a lot of time into the end times ministries, shall we say, constantly looking for the next sign of the Antichrist or the next sign of the mark of the beast or the next sign of the rapture or tribulation. And they make a lot of money off generating that fear, a lot of money, and they have a lot of people following them, clinging on to every word based on the absolute crippling fear that utter death and destruction is about to come upon everybody. And they're hoping they get whisked away in the clouds before it comes, But if it's all already happened, it takes the edge off a little bit. But we need to be wary of the next problem, the next deception. We're living in the Satan's little season. And what comes at the end of all of this is the great white throne judgment. So the only choice we have to make now is, do you choose to make war with Christ, or are you going to stand up and say no when that war finally comes around? That's the only choice you've got to make now. Let's see how it pans out. But yeah, this is not going away. I guarantee in another year's time, Eddie, you're going to hear more and more people talking about this.
I love this. This is one of my favorite podcasts. Thank you. How can my audience reach you? What's your Instagram? Understanding Conspiracy, right? At Understanding Conspiracy.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. I don't really post on there, but I do like collaborate with whoever tags me in a video I've done with them or something. There's some old photos on there from years ago where I was just a photographer going around to cathedrals and stuff. But yeah, you can get me on Instagram at UConspiracy, I think it is, or Understanding Conspiracy. I'm on YouTube primarily. 80,000 subscribers on YouTube, growing rapidly. So go check it out, Understanding Conspiracy. I'm on all the other platforms like Rumble and BitChute and stuff, but I don't really upload on there. It's like a backup, but I've fallen severely behind, so I wouldn't even bother. Go to YouTube, and you can talk to me on Instagram, send me a message. I usually respond. I also have a Telegram group by the same name, Understanding Conspiracy. Come get involved. You see all my works on there and to different things. So you've got the Nephilim Look Like Clowns. If you scroll down, there's a playlist called The Millennial Kingdom Came that covers a lot of topics, goes into the minutiae and the details of this theory, fleshing it out. I have my own podcast there called The Truth of Therapy Sessions, where we discuss anything and everything, and I get guests on from other podcasts to come and share their story of how they woke up and really the journey of being a truther and what it's like today and the pitfalls we all have. I cover many things. I'm a scattershot conspiracy theorist, I cover a lot of things. So come and check it out. We have some fun. I keep it lighthearted. We're a strong community. Yeah, that's all I can really say. Come to YouTube. Come find me there.
Thank you, Paul. I love this. Let's do this again. Let's get in. Next time we'll get into the Nephilims or clowns.
Oh yeah, sure thing. I can go on for hours about
I
that
already
one.
believe it. I already believe it. Clowns have always been scary. I'm like, what is the truth behind? What are the origins of clowns? But thank you very much. And I know it's late in the UK. Get some good sleep, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Eddie. Thanks for having me, and God bless.
Thank you.
The Jiu-Jitsu Dojo is the ultimate training ground for life. Jiu-Jitsu will accelerate the evolution of your being, your consciousness, your soul. Through this amazing art, you will prove to yourself that you can master anything you set your mind to.
Happy birthday, Eddie Bravo.
I leave for Brazil tomorrow. Are you the Fear Factor guy? I'm like 6 pounds over. Time to sweat it out. Just imagine someone that has no idea how different your game is.
I'll tell you what this weekend was, man. It was a culmination point where all your hard work comes to like one great moment in time. You showed that you're a fucking champion, guy who goes against convention. You created your own shit and figured interesting ways to get around problems in jiu-jitsu. And shows you that great things are possible if you work hard, if you dedicate yourself, and you use your creativity, and you push through. Your own human potential just goes up.
My 10th Planet Association has grown rapidly to over 70 academies worldwide, and their curriculums are all synced to 10th Planet headquarters located in downtown Los Angeles. I'm Eddie Bravo. I hope to see you on the mats.